Hi muckers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I hope you're all doing very well. So it just came to my attention that Trisha has posted on the Just Trish podcast about the Colleen Ballinger situation, the Swoop situation, the Johnny situation. Now, again, a lot of people have been giving Trisha heat for this, and they're being like, haven't you said you weren't going to talk about this? And for me, it's just kind of like, okay, but this story, literally a part of this Swoop story involves Trisha Paytas. So to shut her down and be like, why are you talking about this is so annoying to me. And you don't even need to be a Trisha Paytas lover to say that. So I think she has every right to talk about this. I posted a video yesterday that was in regards to a video she posted on her YouTube channel about this. I'm very interested for this one because, again, it's on her new podcast, which seems to be going down very well. And it's her and her co-worker, and they are talking at it from a more journalistic point of view. So I think that this one is going to be equally, if not more interesting than just Trisha sitting down. We'll see. Again, if anyone knows the Selena Gomez meme of Selena Gomez sitting with the blanket wrapped around her, Trisha bought the same blanket. I just think it's kind of camp. All right, let's get into it.
Okay. So the Swoop video.
I'm like at this point. Yeah.
Well, first of all, like you kind of mentioned earlier, shout out to Swoop. That was the first video of hers that I watched, and I was like,
oh, really? You didn't watch the first one?
No, I never. Yeah. I didn't see the other ones, and then
Trisha was tuned in to part 1 and 2.
Then on my Twitter For You page, like I saw Swoop talking about editing, like part 3, and I was like, what? How intense could this be? Because she was really explaining how grueling it was, how long it was taking just to export. She showed like a screenshot of her timeline editing the video, and it looked insane. Right. And I was like, what could it possibly be that it's like that?
I mean, so much fucking work.
And even when she posted that, it was like 4 hours. I was like, 4? That's long. Like, is it really necessary to have 4 hours?
This is the perception that so many people had, and they openly commented this on my video, and they were like, I'm going to be honest, Adam, like, I'm a casual watcher of what has been going on, and whenever I saw that Swoop had uploaded 4 hours worth, I was not sure if I was going to stick around for the long haul, but it was so captivating and so well made that nothing ever dragged on, and that's a fucking credit, by the way. To be able to keep people's attentions for 4 hours and they finish it and then they're anticipating the next part. Genius.
I could not. The second I pressed play.
Keep in mind, whenever I'm at a cinema and the movie's longer than an hour and a half, I'm like...
I was so taken aback by it. So first of all, shout out to Swoop because the way that she presented all the information.
Shout out Swoop.
She speaks.
Like
so eloquent.
Even when it's like about, you can tell she's like a trauma survivor for real, not that no one's not, but like the way she like handles her triggers, like when she.
Did Trisha just say you can tell she's a trauma survivor for real?
Starts talking about it and like composes herself, like it's actually amazing. She's definitely the most articulate person on YouTube, the most well researched, hands down.
It actually is amazing.
Like and inclusive, unbiased. Like she interviews everyone involved, which I feel like there's so many times people tell stories, and there's always two sides to stories. There's a well-rounded like version to stories, but like no one presents that. There's always a narrative or a bias to like make someone look bad in the situation. And
I need to subscribe to this channel.
Obviously above and beyond that, which is like amazing.
Yeah, the fact that she went out to all sides to at least get their take, to get more evidence, just the way, and she's also just so passionate when she speaks too, which really makes you like invested as a viewer / listener. Oh my god, I'm like obsessed with her now. I think she's like
same,
amazing.
Yeah. I know. I'm like someone who's always hesitant to like talk to channels that do that because I never wanted to make it seem like like be in my favor, this whatever. So for her to
you know what I saw someone draw a parallel between the Swoop to Colleen Ballinger is D'Angelo Wallace to Shane Dawson. And it really made me sit back and think and be like, wait, like, with Peace and Love, I think Swoop has put way more effort in than D'Angelo, but it's not a competition of who put in more work. I just think that Swoop actually interviewed people and D'Angelo gathered, information and added it. I think both of them did an incredible job, and I think D'Angelo Wallace will go down in history on YouTube for his video on Shane. Like, literally go down in history for that video. I think it is so incredibly done. I think he's so brilliant as a content creator, and I think Swoop is so brilliant as a content creator, and I think you can draw parallels between both of the videos. But obviously, like, Swoop interviewed people, whereas D'Angelo's videos were not that. I think they both had very different purposes, but I think that it's interesting to draw the parallels between them.
people like obviously don't like me and they have a bias already, so like to have this like unbiased view of me out there is always like risky for anyone because they're like, well, Trisha's bad and blah blah blah. So the fact that she like mentioned a couple times like the full story when it like came to mind, and also just the sensitivity of what it was. There's so much to talk about with this, but like again, I just need to like reiterate, like Swoop was the one that convinced Johnny to take down my pictures, which is like that was like it definitely like humiliating, and it's like one of these things where it's like I never want to talk about it ever, and then when those pictures came out I kind of felt like forced to talk about it, and like Johnny admitted that on like interviews that like he's like I did it to kind of force Trisha to talk because she wasn't talking. And what
You know what's crazy? The difference. I saw someone comment this as well. Wow, today's a video of comments. Because I really have been diving into my comment section, and someone wrote, it's interesting to draw the parallels between Adam and Johnny with the Trisha nude situation, because for me, I openly online expressed my frustration with the fact that Trisha continued to work with Colleen, and I wanted Trisha so desperately to stop working with Colleen, and because it felt like a slap in the face, not on a personal level with Trish, but it just felt like I wasn't being believed, right? Whereas with Johnny, it was he wanted Trisha to speak on it so that Trisha would bring more attention to his name, which is why in interviews I said Trisha is continuing to work with Colleen and that bothers me because she needs to know what Colleen has done to her, whereas Johnny was doing it for getting attention because then Trisha would be speaking about Johnny. And I think one thing to note as well is I've already apologized to Trisha for, whether it came across as forcing her to talk about something. I wonder what I said in my email. How did I phrase that? I'm pretty sure I said something in regards to, like, I'm sorry if I pressured you into saying something. It was just for... Hold on, let me figure this out. Sent emails, because I know I don't send that many emails. To Trisha. Okay. Apology from Adam McIntyre is literally the subject. Okay, so I wrote... Firstly, I'm so sorry about the betrayal from Colleen. She really is nasty. I am also sorry for putting so much pressure on you to speak out. It came from a place of frustration, and whether or not you believe me, caring about you, and not wanting you to feel the betrayal of her like I did. So this is something I've already apologized for, and I didn't even do it to the extremes that Johnny did. Which, again, I think it's interesting to draw parallels between Johnny and me. Because, again, I'm trying to create as much divide between me and Johnny as livingly possible.
At that point, it wasn't for me to talk about, even when there was things about, but I did feel forced to talk about it. This time, I don't feel forced to talk about it. I feel like gratitude towards it, but it's just such a dark situation. Like not everyone involved, but like there's so many layers to it, and just like layers of manipulation and people traumatizing other people.
True.
It really comes down like hurting people. So obviously these people had trauma. There's some unwell people, some sick people, but it's like they don't get help, so they're like traumatizing other people in the like process of all this, and including Swoop, who
I think one thing I just don't know and I can't grasp is what was the end goal for Johnny? What was the end goal from Johnny? Is there anyone that's able to rationalize it? I see everyone just saying fame and attention, but it's like, I don't know. What? Very, very, very true, Milo. Very true, Milo.
Obviously was affected by it, which is like, crazy because, you think you have no attachment to the story on a personal level, and then you do, and then you get triggered, and now it's like affecting you and your mental health. But like also at the same time, like it needs to be out there to show this like full side, this full story, because it's just so beyond drama or gossip. It's like this like really like dark world of people talking to all these people and manipulation, and just it's kind of, I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like a scandal. It's not like drama. Like there's real victims, and it affects people on such like an emotional level. And two, it's like for the real victims of the whole like Colleen situation, like Adam, Oliver, Becky, like that was what I really felt bad for, is because I feel like they were trying to like move on. And yeah, like take Adam for example, like yeah, he can cover it or talk about different things that come up in his videos, but he's also doing other things. Like he's not only talking about Colleen, he's covering other things, and he's like moving on with his life and trying to like build his career. That's what he's like working towards. So I felt bad because of this like
I appreciate him saying that. I really do. Just on the basis as well of like, I mean, everyone does love to throw it in my face of like, oh my God, like this is all you're talking about. But if you think about it as well, it's like, I have been uploading equally, if not more, content that doesn't revolve around this on my channel since this has started. And if you want to hyper focus on, you know, videos to do with this, that's on you. But you can also click on my channel and see the story times, the Am I the Assholes, the Ask Adams, the vlogs, the sit down videos. Like, there's more of them than what there is of all this. Like, you know, and also, it's ridiculous, and I'm not going to allow 2020 to happen again where people say, oh, he's, you know, guilty because he's not saying something. So if someone brings my fucking name up, I'm gonna talk. Like...
takes everyone back, you know?
Yeah, because ultimately you don't want to be known for that, especially when you are trying to do other things. Like, this is not what you want to be known for. Like, obviously, it's everybody to speak on it. I always say, like, if you want to make 1,000 videos, if you've, like, been a victim of trauma, especially, and like I said in my email to him, it's like, sometimes you don't even realize it. Maybe he doesn't realize it now, or maybe, you know, when you get older, sometimes you don't even realize, like, the effect it, like, has on you.
Yeah.
Or why you are this way.
I think it's important to note that everything I've been responding to and making videos on recently is people talking about me and me responding to them. You know what I mean?
Are so upset, like, why, you know, these things are, or the people that don't have, you know, YouTube channels, like the other, you know, the other people affected. Was it the one, who was the one on stage? Was that Ella?
Becky.
I think so, yeah.
Becky.
Yeah, I see her pop up on my Twitter.
Shout out Becky.
It's like, this is a girl that doesn't really have, like, social media like that, doesn't have a following, and still, like, gets re-traumatized when anyone brings it up. So, like, other influencers talking about it, be like, it's not a big deal. And it's like, I don't get how people don't grasp the severity of this, because I get saying, like, who cares about drama? Like, of course, who cares about drama? But this is something everyone should care about as a parent, as an influencer, as a fan. Like, this is, like, a really big issue that, like, I don't understand why there's not more, like, severity, like, more people are talking about it and, like, not stop talking about it. Now it's being written off as drama. Who cares? Whatever. And it's like these people, these young fans that felt really...
I love that Trisha's holding her mic like this. And she has since the start of the video. Also, I agree with everything Trisha... Hold on, I feel like this is uncomfortable for me to do. This is uncomfortable. I agree completely with everything Trisha is saying. You know, whether you're a mother and the fact that this could happen to your child online, whether it is Colleen or someone else, or whether you are the fan, whether you're a fan of someone else, like, there are so many people that this, you know, can affect and people can learn from. And I think it's really important.
Hurt by this person in power that they admire is like, not only are they not getting the acknowledgement or, you know, some sort of apology or some sort of closure from it, now they're getting, like, mocked for it as being, like, drama, as being this, and it's why people don't come forward and why people don't want to talk about it, and it becomes this thing, and it just becomes almost like an ick, and now it's like this whole new, like you said, reopening all this stuff. And honestly, for me too, and I don't like to paint myself as, like, a victim, obviously, in the situation, but it is, like, a lot to process, and you realize how young everyone is that was involved.
I mean, she also is a victim in this, so...
Like, obviously had some issues with, you know, this, you know, whatever, in this world, and trying to, I don't know, get whatever out of it, but then now he's doing it to other people, like, taking people's stories, you know, taking, like, Adam's story.
Oh, the pinky's down.
It just becomes, like, a really twisted thing, and of manipulation, of going on these things and manipulating people. It's just like, I don't know, it's such a it's a sick feeling. And then obviously, I don't know,
for anyone who hasn't seen Swoop's video, like, I think just watch it because it's so well done, and it's hard to, like, summarize everything that she uncovered about what was going on with Johnny. But just to sum it up and as quickly as possible, so Swoop had uncovered that Johnny, who was saying that he was groomed by Colleen's ex-husband, Joshua David Evans, Johnny had doctored evidence. He refused to provide proof of the allegations. He was leaving out context in screenshots.
Oh my God, the, like, big list just goes to show how fucking many things he's done.
When he was a minor, when he was an adult. He was claiming that Joshua had lied about stuff, but never provided proof about that. And he was in group chats with minors when he was just alleging all the stuff that Joshua did to him that he would never do. It turns out he actually was. So the whole situation is just so shitty, especially, I think, when we first were texting about it, you were like, oh, I hate that this takes away from, like, Colleen. So it's important to also remember where this all originally came from, and not all because there's, like, another person who's done shitty things doesn't take away from the source.
Totally,
you
yeah.
know?
And she is the person in power in this situation, so it, like, trickles down.
Someone commented and was like, Trisha looks over it. I think it's important to note that this is a story that does involve Trisha to some degree. So Trisha is either holding herself back, and even if Trisha was over it, it's a situation that involves her, and she has every right to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But how scary it is that, like, it can be, like you can tamper with evidence, kind of like what she did with Adam when she, like, showed that the video. We talked about that, you know. It's kind of like when you can doctor things.
I appreciate Trisha's brought this up a couple times now of Colleen literally editing evidence to paint me in a bad light, which she has done. I'm so glad that she keeps bringing this up, because not many people do, but the lingerie of her editing out her begging to give them to me, you know what I mean, and how creepy my parents would think she is and stuff, and she edited that out. It's like such an obscure thing, and I'm so glad that Trisha keeps bringing it up, and I'm very grateful that she does.
Or unsend messages or something like that, like how damaging it is, because like again, once something's out there, you're labeling someone like, and groomers like very, very like a big accusation, and some, you know, rightfully so and some not, but once it's out there, it's hard to like get back. You know what I mean? When you're labeled as something like that, that's it, and you're labeled as across the board, and like how someone can go so hard on someone and label them that, because again, not to say like the situation, like, you know, he didn't feel slighted by someone, but when you feel slighted by someone can just like twist it around and make this like really big accusation. And I like that she was able to like include everything and show like that story, because there's so many times I wish like people could see the full story of this, because he just becomes like an attack almost, and then people just jump on it, and like the way he kind of turned the story to make it about him and her ex-husband is like so sick.
Yeah, and honestly, when I was watching it, I was actually like really pissed off. Like, I normally like kind of take everything with like a grain of salt, but to be honest, with like the way that Johnny was acting on Twitter, like before all this happened, like rubbed me the wrong way, because it's like I obviously want to empathize with all the victims of the whole situation, but like I said earlier, like I could see everyone else trying to move on, but nothing was ever enough for Johnny. When Josh apologized, like privately, publicly, it was content for him for weeks, dragging him, like nothing.
And I'm also, it's so often that we will experience stories where people, so much has happened that people forget to bring it up, just not out of anything, but just that so much has happened. And Oscar bringing this up about the apologies, and then the apologies turned into more content for Johnny, and then he wanted more apologies so there could be more content for him, is again such an obscure thing to bring up, but really helps paint the picture of Johnny in the correct way. And I mean, the research on this podcast is actually really good. And I mean, they've condensed the Swoop video to a nice level that doesn't take away from the story, but also redirects you to the Swoop video.
Was enough, even though his apology was like as eloquent as it could have possibly have been. And I'm like not invested in like, I was never like a fan of Colleen beforehand, not like in a brag way, just like it just wasn't my thing. I didn't really know like
that is something to brag about.
But seeing the way that Johnny,
I do think Johnny was in love with Josh. I think so, in my opinion.
He had this tweet about like, I think Joey, there's something with Joey Graceffa, because he had like a Minecraft server, so alluding that there was something there, and Joey's like old fans actually had to come out and be like, no, they reactivated their Twitter accounts just to say like, you're wrong. So the fact that he was labeling people so aggressively, he was just doing anything for attention, and that became his whole brand. His whole brand was to take down Joshua for some reason,
or pressuring people who don't talk about it. It's like you said, like Joey or people are friends. It's like no one has to say anything for a multitude of reasons. There's, you know, it doesn't mean they're siding with this person, but like it just gets messy, and they're like, I hate that mentality. Is like, well, you have to talk about it. You were friends with this person, talk about it. And it's like, I don't like that pushy mentality. I also think like, and it's no secret, like I'm not a fan of Joshua. It's not because of anything with Colleen. Like he had said something so long ago. It doesn't even matter.
This is interesting to me. I want to hear what she has to say, and then I'm going to talk and a little. Hold on. Let me hear this.
Like it's just like literally something about like couples who are like fake online or something. And I took it as like a personal insult. This was like wow. So it's not like a secret that I wasn't like a fan of his. But like you said, like there is like time.
Oh, I guess that's it. I am very aware that Trisha and Josh did not like each other because of a moment in time where she came for him really, really, really intensely. And I remember, it's my speculation that Colleen was feeling that because Colleen was sending us all updates to go and look at Trisha's story, and at the same time was making fun of Trisha for being, I think it was her words were like, psychotically unhinged or something like that. Hold on, let me type this. I can't talk and type at the same time. Okay, here we go.
Drama in their lives where it's not even, I don't even know if it's real. I think half of it's real.
And I have seen
half of it is fabricated.
I've seen a clip, by the way, from this podcast, the one clip I have seen where Trisha goes on to say, you know, and Colleen didn't entice me to do any of that. I don't believe that, honestly, because I know what Colleen was doing to us behind the scenes. So
I think people play, they're using you for a view. This is not.
Oh my God, your girl doesn't give a shit anymore. But I swear to God, when Joshua DTV makes a video saying they're using you for views by talking about drama, you broke up 2 years ago and still talk about your drama.
See, this is why I think Colleen fueled it. I mean, not only did Colleen update us in the moment to go and look at Trisha's story and then also call her unhinged for doing it, but everything she's saying is about, like, Colleen, you know what I mean?
I have literally nothing against Josh. Met him one time, perfectly fine. I don't know the history. I don't care because it happened 2 years ago. But this guy, like, literally just dragged.
And by the way, at this time was whenever Colleen was getting us all to, like, harass him on social media. Something to note.
And dragged his relationship and his current one for views. If you are somebody who puts your life out there and exploits your relationship and your breakup years after something even happened, you one of those too, boo. You are. Don't say you were a part of that. You are a part of it. You are the king of it.
Colleen
Like I said, I had no issues with him.
was so happy when Trisha did this. I can't tell you how happy Colleen was when Trisha did this. Like, Colleen was one of the happiest I have ever seen Colleen in her life. Ever after Trisha did this. Colleen was like, she was overwhelmingly happy. I remember this day specifically because it was a really big day for all of us, because it was like, oh my god, we've got Trisha on the record.
I followed him on Instagram, but
This goes on and on and
my whole
on.
channel has been my life. Over emotional. Put my shit out there and anyone can comment. Actual feelings, whatever platform you have. He keeps up all his about divorce, healing, pain. I shouldn't be telling you this. All these clickbait drama titles he still has up. That's a crazy person. Built my platform out of love and out of people like growing with me and like being with me on a journey. And so I share my feelings and emotions, and there is nothing wrong with that. Whatever channel he's talking about, all the channels he's talking about, whatever.
So there's that.
When like someone apologizes, and what more can you want? Like, you know what I mean? If they apologize, if you don't accept it, that's fine. But to continue to drag someone who, you know, you don't know their story, but also just to like really like go the extra mile and accuse someone of like some serious like damaging things. And I don't think he's on social media anymore, or doesn't have a platform anymore. So it's also like, what are you trying to do? You're just trying to ruin this person's life when there's no merit to it. Where we now found out, it's like,
yeah, it was always just so weird because what was the end? There was like no end game. You know, it's like, what could he have possibly done? Besides just completely, I mean, Joshua wasn't really that active on social media. It's not like he was a YouTuber making content. So I don't know I think he was just trying to go as far as he possibly could to gain followers and do it like at all costs. And it's like, was that like really worth it? Like, why would you want to hurt other victims, like take some and put yourself in legal jeopardy? Like, I can't believe that he was able to get away with all these allegations as much as he did.
yeah.
Did you see that Johnny actually released a statement?
No. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Was that the last thing he said though?
That was the last thing. Yeah, it was his tweet about Swoop's video, and that's
just
all that
basically saying it's like she manipulated it or something.
Yeah, he felt betrayed by Swoop, and that his trauma was used against him.
I didn't get that at all from the interview.
No, me either.
I mean, it was like watching it and just watching the parts. I'm just like, wow. Like even like the stuff, like the tweets, like, you know, where he's just like, yeah, like why would you collab with a porn star? Like all this like really harsh stuff. But then he's trying to be like, oh, but I put it out to like, you know, make Trisha feel better. And like I'm like, well, what? No. And then he like
Just lying, obviously.
I don't know, just all the stuff. I'm just like, it's a little like ick.
He really knew me before everything, and then watching that, I was so mad.
Yeah, and then
I
it
was
takes
really
away
mad.
from like other people, and not just Colleen, but just like other people that like actually were affected by it. And it's like, okay, so then everyone else just starts to be like, okay, this is like now. Then it becomes the drama of it, and it's like not drama. It's like, you know, very real, very.
Johnny was like made the rounds on like different podcasts and stuff too, and that is also annoying too because he took advantage of other people's platforms. But then too, like even it was like a reminder that you do have to like be mindful of both sides of the story. And I feel like we try to be too, but like who's to say I would have been any different? Like I know he went on a podcast and they were so pro Johnny, and they wouldn't even like let Joshua, you know, chime in and give his side of the story too. And it's like,
And I think one thing to note as well is like, if we include that after Josh tried to reach out so many times, and then after Johnny kept making fun of the apologies and Josh blocked him, and then Johnny was like, well, there it is. He blocked me and that was his end game. It's like Josh couldn't have done anything right.
there's that element as well. It's like, well, if you see someone who's like being like a victim who everyone is like supporting and rallying behind, it's hard to also like reach out to the other person who is being accused of things, you know?
Yeah, but you should like fully get a full side to every story.
Yeah.
Then it becomes like harmful and dangerous all over again. It's such a. And yeah, like going on a platform, going on all these interviews and stuff, like knowing that you also partook in this bad behavior is what's crazy. Which is why, again, the shock back to me, which was like, oh, wow, we started this whole podcast together knowing you said all this horrible stuff about me. Like, that's what's bizarre to me. And like him too doing this, I'm like, you also partook in this really bad behavior. You weren't a child, and like Adam was a child. So like, you know, Adam was like, I apologize because I partook in this too. It's like, but you were a child. So like, you don't know better. And when you're an adult and you do know better, to also like go on all these interviews and then be like, well, yeah, like I can't believe this. But meanwhile, you're doing the same thing, you know?
Did you think it would never come? Like, I don't understand too. Maybe it was just such a level of like mentally like disassociating from it that maybe he
So I'm just like listening to this and like taking this in. This is also my first time listening to this.
believed that he didn't. I don't know.
That's why I don't understand that. No, but that's I don't want to use this word like lightly at all, but it's almost like psychopathic, where it's just like you just don't think. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like, oh, you said all this horrible stuff about me, but you're still gonna like start this go into business and stuff like me. Like the minute we started a podcast, I was like, hey, just so you know, like people try to cancel me, people hate me for this, and it's like I was very clear. I was like, oh, I don't know why you're problematic or why people don't like you, and then she would never tell me. And then all of this, I'm like, that's like almost like psychopathic, where you're not gonna be like open to someone, or you confront someone. I'm like, oh my god, like did you say this about me? Oh my god, never. They were the ones obsessed with you. Like that's almost like, are you okay? Like this stuff is gonna come out. Like how do you?
Because again, remember whenever Trisha confronted Colleen about it, and then Colleen said, no, Adam was actually obsessed with you. And then the truth came out a couple days later, I guess.
And, like, even if it doesn't, like, your conscience, like, this guilty conscience, I'm just like, unless, like you said, unless it's a disassociating thing, or they're just so, like, they don't think it happens, or they think they're above it, or I don't know.
I mean, especially when there's, like, text and stuff, it's, like, there's a paper trail, you know? It's just, it never made sense to me, like, why not like fess up at some point and like to go down to like the very last minute when like they really have no other, you know, escape really than to apologize or confront that you did something shitty.
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
It's so
also
weird.
Like you didn't just say it once. Like there's times when I'm like, oh, I don't remember saying that or something, or like, oh, I totally forgot I said that about someone or whatever. But it was like so many times I was on a watch list apparently, and I'm like, okay, if you have like a watch list and you have like your fans helping you out, like you have to know that you did this. Like, it's
So Johnny said that Trisha was on a watch list, which is just so dramatic. Like, watch list? Like, please. That is so dramatic. They would just keep up with Trisha on social media. Like, watch list? Like, what do you mean by that? I think it was just Johnny throwing around big words like he often does. But they would, you know, always watch Trisha's stuff. There was no, like, watch list or notifications on or anything like that. Trisha was just someone that was a big part of their life without Trisha really knowing it.
It's honestly something that like is the most shocking thing. So I feel like it's one of those things too where I'm just like so shook by it, and everything that comes out by it, I'm just like, wow, this is like so dark and like sinister and twisted and like affected so many people. Like if he was also talking to these like underage kids, like what is wrong with people? Why are you talking to underage children? Like period ever. Like it's just so weird. Or like lying about bullying Adam and then it's like not happening. I'm like, what is this?
Like,
I'm like so
becoming a knight in stories that didn't even happen. Oh my god, I take accountability for bullying Adam. Didn't even happen.
bizarre.
And then that kind of reminds me too, it's like he had to have known, because then he like deleted, in the screenshots he sent to Swoop, he deleted the stuff that made him look like a fan. You know what I mean? So he had to have known how it would come across.
Did he not know that it doesn't work? Like the other person can still see those messages. That's so sus. Yeah, when people do that, it's like so sus.
Yeah, that's why the whole thing just
Just to make you a fan, right?
It makes me so mad. It makes me so mad. Like it never ends. The Colleen stuff. It never. There's like layer after layer after layer, and I just feel bad that it keeps like being brought up. And like every time like the wound starts to close up, it's just like
it's like draining. It's exhausting. At the same time, I mean, I do think it's like important to keep the awareness going, because so many things do get brushed under, and I feel like this is such a severe situation that I'm just like, how does it now get brushed under as like, oh, she's been on YouTube a while, it's a mistake, why do people care, who cares? It's like, but it's such a big thing, and it's like, I don't know, especially if you're a parent, have a child, like you would care if someone is texting your like teenagers this stuff, or like having these adult conversations. Like it's the most,
I mean, true,
it's a very traumatizing thing, which I don't think people realize the trauma.
Not Johnny trying to be your name in a fan fiction.
Dealing with that with like adults.
Cody's fan fiction?
Like I had lots of people tell me, I had like 2 guys that I knew like that were in their 40s when I was a teenager telling me that they were going to divorce their wives, and all this like drama, not for me, but just like telling me, oh, I don't know what to do, like my wife is this, and it's like at the time you feel special, you feel whatever, like you're in it, and then you're like, oh my god, this was like a lot to take on, and then you're like taking on this guilt and this thing. It's just like very weird. And then like in my head they were in my head I'm like, oh, women are awful, women are the problem in marriages. Like it's like so weird.
Mm-hmm.
It gets like really deep and really dark, and I think this is a lot, and like seeing it, how it affected Swoop, how it affects a lot of people. And also just like these false accusations, it's like so scary that anyone can do this.
Everyone like kind of had preconceived notions about Joshua too, which I don't think helped. And so everyone obviously like would believe Johnny like right away. So it's just like so tricky, because it's like you obviously believe the victims, but then you also have to hear the other side. I get that it's like hard to juggle all sides, but I guess at least with the Colleen stuff, like she had a chance to give her side, and then it was the ukulele. So it's like
I think right, which is like honestly like that to me was like what like I mean it was like a lot. But I do think in some sense that Johnny was obviously like manipulated, in the sense that it's a power dynamic thing where there's someone who has the power, who's a celebrity, who's paying you, who's your employer, and so you kind of feel like you need to partake in it, or you do it to other people. It's kind of like again, the hurt people, you get traumatized, so you're like doing it to other people to feel some sort of power or something. That's like, so I do believe like, there is like a victim there, but again, you can't just go around and like hurt people, like I do think he felt some type of way, like he felt, I don't know, maybe manipulated by her, because I think it is the person with the fame and the power that is in the power.
So what, Johnny felt manipulated by Colleen, so decided to take it out on Josh? What?
Point two is like yeah, there's a lot of shady stuff that came out, but at the root of it, there's definitely still like someone who was hurt and like a victim in a way too. And like you're right, it's like a weirdly kind of reminds me of the Lizzo situation. Like he was an employee, right? And then there was just like stuff and like lines that were crossed. Especially he was young. He was an adult, but he was still a young adult, you know. So and being like a fan, being a young person who's suddenly like on the road traveling, like that's also a whole other dynamic. Like you're away from home.
So hard.
Yeah. So there's definitely like a root to that situation.
It's so tough. It's so tough. That's I think anything with a fan dynamic is just like super hard because you'll always be the person in power. You'll always be able to manipulate intentionally or unintentionally. You know, you're manipulating the situation because
I think it's also important to note whenever people are giving Johnny praise and being like, you know, he was still a part of like a power dynamic. Didn't he then create his own power dynamic because he had a power dynamic and then use that as well? Like
one that has the power in charge, which is like why you're not supposed to have like workplace romances and you know romances with your boss because there's that power dynamic, and I think that's like something people like don't see either. You know, I don't know because it's like fans even in, like with you know David and like the vlog squad. You know, these people were fans; they want to be in the vlog, so they compromise.
They would do things they normally wouldn't do because of the opportunity or.
And so like that person has a responsibility. The person with the power, I think, has a responsibility
to like protect.
Yeah, because it's such a serious thing, and so that's why it's like I don't know, keeping people at a distance is like sometimes better for everyone involved. You know what I mean? Especially like you shouldn't be ever having lunch with like a 15-year-old fan, like if you're in your 30s, like, and that's weird. And no matter how that situation played out, like just those details of it is kind of like eerie to me. It's like, oh well, you know, we've been waiting here, and just like this is a child, like that his parents are dropping him off, like what? I don't know.
And there's still a part 4, which how do you feel? Are you gonna watch?
I'm interested to hear what Trisha has to say about part 4 because obviously it has to entirely do with Joshua David Evans. And clearly we know that Trisha does not like Joshua David Evans. So I'm interested to see whether or not Trisha is interested in it. I feel like, of course, she's going to watch it either way, but like...
I'm
a Swoop fan now, so I'm kind of invested. Again, I feel like, you know, you don't have to like someone to also like understand that they've also been, you know, I don't know if victim's the right word or hurt, you know, by the whole situation because I don't know how I feel.
She's talking about Josh there.
I think all of it's sad.
Again, I wasn't really invested like in this era, but I can imagine like, you know, you were a part of like a YouTube couple or whatever, right? And then you break up and then you are completely like you have to like completely be wiped off the internet basically because it's so bad after dealing with so much and overcoming a lot to be able to like finally have an opportunity to be heard. That is like it must be like a big relief for him. So I can understand why he would.
Well, it doesn't work again. Just it's to not take away this.
Okay, before what Trisha gets to, Josh deserves to be heard. You have no idea if you were not a part of this fandom how little he was heard or how little his opinion was, you know, valued or anything like that. For me, as someone who was a part of all of it, it's like, I'm happy for him. I really, really, really am. He deserves this moment. And he almost had it, but then Johnny came in. So he's having it again now, you know.
Severity of like what the actual like crime was and like this criminal offense with like children, you know, it's one thing to be a crappy person, but it's another thing to be a crappy person to like a child and like children involved and like take away like that one girl felt humiliated and to be like, oh, it was just a joke. It's like, okay, well, again, this is like a focus thing, and I get it, like, you know, you feel safe enough to come out, there's enough stories and you feel safe enough, and I feel like there's people in my life I'm like, well, one day if like a lot of people came about it, you know, maybe I would chime in too. I don't know.
I know. I at least like she said that she does like ask him the hard questions. She doesn't like let him off the hook with anything. So if there's anyone I trust to like be fair on both sides and make sure, you know, it's not like going to be like a puff piece on it.
That's also a good point to admit. You know what I mean? It's also a good point to admit that, you know, Swoop is not just going to sit there and be like, Josh, I love you. Josh, this is your moment. Swoop is going to be like, Josh, this is your moment, but we also need to address first of all.
Right. Yeah, then on the other hand, sometimes I mean, look, I think totally do whatever. Like I've always said, like if you're like a victim of something, like you can make 1,000 videos and you're in the right for it. I don't know. I go back and forth, but I think if anyone wants a platform and, you know, they feel safe to come out with something, they should, you know. Especially if your life was destroyed allegedly, you know, by someone or you felt that way, like, yeah, you should.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to say allegedly for that. Josh's life was destroyed by Colleen. Colleen was obsessed with him. This isn't an alleged.
So we'll see how that shakes out, but how Swoop said what the interview was 7 hours.
So crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, and I hope she does get did she get her monetization because that's a lot of work. Like period. That's so much work. It's like, did she get it reinstated? The monetization?
I don't know.
Because like that's work. That is work. And it started out as like once you.
It's pissed me off. Her video got demonetized.
You're editing. You're giving hours of your time. You're like being so invested in this. Like it's actually work. I think that's what people forget too.
I hope people are buying her hoodies to make up for it.
Even Adam, like, you know, at the end of the day, like you know, I'm sure like this stuff is not what he wanted to happen, but it's like it is a job. This is what he does for a living. It's like it's what I do for a living. It's just kind of like at the end of the day, you know, you like talk about it, and it just is unfortunate that this is like the story. But sometimes you become the story like Wendy Williams.
Yeah.
Remember when she was like getting divorced? Like, I would ask for privacy right now, but I want to give it to you.
Oh, that is true, actually.
You know?
Wait, that is such a valid point that Trisha brought up. Where there's that clip of Wendy and she's going through a divorce and they're asking her about it and she's like crying and she's like, you know, I'm going to ask you for my privacy, but I don't respect others, or something like that. What is it? Wendy Williams. Respect privacy. That is so real. Where is it?
I'm going to get my chicken and waffles and I'm going to go back to my hotel. It's not fair.
Where is it?
Take it out of context, though. Right?
So turnabout is a potato. Yes, of course you will. Kevin's got to graduate from college. But they're not apart. Right. And I gotta go.
Where is that?
I understand. Wendy, listen, you're.
Where's the actual clip? That's like the full length one. Where is it? Hold on, I'm looking. I know it's whenever she's crying. Give me a moment. Oh my god, this is such an obscure thing for Trisha to reference.
I didn't plan on this, but it is what it is. I have got to go. I gotta go. Thank you for people's.
Yeah, there's an EV.
She's going. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, this is like.
I'm hungry.
Ray, listen, welcome to LA.
I love
right.
I'm out here
All right.
in the streets. I'm not the world.
Oh my god, that's so annoying. I can't find it. Anyway, it's a clip of her, and she goes, I want to ask you to respect my privacy. Ugh, damn it. She's like, I want to ask you to respect my privacy, but I don't respect other people's privacies. Damn it. Just know that it exists.
At this point, I'm just like, yeah, I mean, people are gonna talk, you know, and you might as well get on it if it's part of you, you know, put your own narrative in there, because I hate when people like talk around me or about me, and it's like, oh god, I try so hard to like not talk about it, but then it's like, okay, I need to like,
Yeah, well, when you have your own chapter in the video, you gotta.
I know, because honestly, I was just like, oh, I don't know if I want to watch this. It's like really, really hard, and it does get triggering. I saw it, and I got so immediately like triggered when he was like, oh, well, why are you doing a podcast with a porn star? Anyways, like just so insensitive, and so like I was like, Jesus, like you don't care, and I didn't see any of that prior. Like I really didn't see so much of this prior, and even when he put out the pictures, I was just like, oh my god, this is like a lot, and like the emojis he used to censor me and stuff like that, or the way he describes, or she's butt naked with a big grin on her face, and like this is my job. Like this is something that like I hope to get away from one day. It's like, you know, I'm making money there now, and I'm doing it, but it's not it's not my proudest moments, especially as a mom, and then having that out there. And honestly, it's more of like a humiliation thing. Like I said, there's plenty of ways to contact me like privately with stuff, and it's like, and also to not find out that it was like to force me to talk is like, ugh, it just feels so almost like blackmail, violation. It's just like a lot. It's just, he kind of sucks, and I feel bad for him again. I know he saw this, like these people he admired and fame. I know how it feels to be like rejected by people that you like love, and I think that's when you can turn into like the villain, I guess. You know, I do think that can like turn someone. Not an excuse, but it's also like, get it together.
Yeah, it's an explanation.
Don't hurt other people. Yeah, right.
I think that's something to admit as well. That's a good point. It's like when you don't get the attention that you wanted from these people, so you like turn evil against them.
Yeah. I really did learn a lot.
No, he's so smart. He's smart. But yeah, it's like you gotta get it together. And another reason why you just shouldn't, you know, get that close with fans, because like ultimately you could hurt them. I mean, I know I've heard people who like thought we were like really close friends. You know, they came to a meetup and I like kept in touch with them, and then they come to California and I don't hang out with them, and then they get really sad. And I like understand that. I totally do. You know. So, but this is like on this like deep level. You're sharing all these intimate things with someone. You're sending them like pictures. Like, you know, then you feel even closer. So it even hurts more when you're like rejected, quote unquote. I don't know what the falling out was, but obviously he felt some sort of rejection, and it made him feel some type of way. As anyone would feel. I think Adam even talks about that too. It's just like feeling like like I think he said like he was losing her or something like that when he was like a teenager. So he's like, oh, I'm losing her. You know, I lost her. I lost this connection or whatever. And I don't really know what it was.
Yeah, I said that I felt I had fucked up the friendship because she started blaming me for her getting canceled for the Meghan Trainor tweet when actually it was her fault. And I was like, oh shit, I messed up this friendship. That was what I said. Yeah.
That happened, but it's like, yeah, that can feel traumatizing, especially as a child. You feel like you just like ruined the greatest thing that could ever happen to you. You had this like connection to someone you admired so much, and it could feel the worst. And like shame on the adult for like making someone feel that way and making them feel
a child.
Love you, you're my family, and then also like, you're fired. I'm never talking to you again.
Yeah, that's why boundaries are just really.
Boundaries are important.
Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta like realize that in general, and it's just. And if they're underage, just don't. Like, you can be friendly, as Dr. Drew says. Be friendly. You can be friendly with them, but don't need to be friends. Even if you're like 70, like you don't need to be friends. If you're 31, you don't need to be friends with anyone that's a teenager. Even if you're 18, 19, you don't need to be friends with them. Period. Period. That should be a good name for a podcast. Period. It should be period. And you only talk about your menstrual cycle. Period.
All right. Well, I guess that's the end of talking about that. You know what? again, as Trisha likes to say about me or anyone like that, like they can make as many videos or as little videos as they want. Also for Trisha, she can talk about her friendship with Colleen and the fallout as much or as little as she wants to. It goes both ways. Regardless of your opinion of her, she is someone who is directly involved in this and has every single right to talk about this. So, period.